Hey, good morning, almost afternoon to everybody out there, and welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live. We are so excited to be able to dive in today about a subject that we see all the time, and it's a subject that's near and dear to our hearts. It's something that everybody's doing, and it's something that not only is everybody doing it when they're trying to fix their marriages, even more so, we're seeing the experts, so to speak, that will tell them to continue down this path. And it absolutely does not fix the marriage. So guys, if you're here today and you are, maybe you've been trying to work things in your marriage, maybe you've been trying to improve them and things have not been working. Maybe you've tried different counseling even, and it seems like it really didn't make things better. Well, this is exactly the place that you need to be today.
Yes. Sometimes it can even make it worse. And that's what we have found about this particular advice. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. But we are Scott and Rachel. We help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. So if you're watching on Facebook, say hello. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our content and we can spend more time together encouraging you in your Christian marriage.
Yes.
So that one piece of horrible advice that we see over and over and over again. You want me to say? Okay, it's rehash the past. It's let's dredge up all the sins and the hurts and the pains and every single thing your spouse has done to harm you in your marriage. And let's dredge it up and get it all out on the table so we can sort it out. And we have seen this bad advice given over and over again. And we have seen the damage that it does in a marriage. It is crippling. It is basically inviting the accuser to come into your marriage and point their finger and say, look how rotten you are. It's terrible advice. We see it over and over again, and it's not the way to fix your marriage at all.
It's absolutely right. But what I want to suggest in addition to that, even if you haven't necessarily gone for help, maybe you've never even talked to somebody about the state of your marriage that's been struggling. Even if you're just, you don't need to move that. Even if you just need, you're trying to, what is the, oh gosh.
Phone
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's very distracting.
Okay.
Sorry. So even if you're just default mode, you're trying to do life. If you're not very, very careful and you're in your marriage and you are thinking back when things are struggling in your marriage, you're looking back on your childhood. Like for a lot of people, their childhood wasn't necessarily a good thing.
Right.
There might have been abuse situations. There might have been a very unsupportive father, for example. And even in the context of marriage, this can be like something that you're bringing to the table that you didn't even realize it, something from your past that you're not necessarily rehashing it, but you're living it out every single day and imposing it upon your spouse. Mm-hmm. You're like, my husband knows what happened to me. He should be giving me the support, especially because he knows my dad did not. And you're living in this what is this tension, I guess you'd say, where you're hoping, you're still living in the past, hoping that in the present, you can get some resolution in your spouse for the past. And it's simply not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. And you can keep trying to do that. You're also going to bring the baggage of previous relationships, maybe even a previous marriage, maybe not necessarily even abuse, but some of those patterns of disconnect, those patterns of miscommunication, and bring those into the marriage. And you're getting stuck living in the past of those things that happen because you're bringing them in the present. And so essentially you're rehashing that past over and over again, even though it was only your past, not necessarily with your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like taking all this baggage, this literal luggage that you're carrying around. And it's like, well, let's deal with all this. So let's open all the luggage. Let's pull out all the dirty laundry and let's just shove it in your face and like make you smell it and see. And it's just like, this is not the way to do laundry and to put the things away. This is not the way to handle this, right? And we see it over and over again. It's probably the worst advice you can get is to rehash the past. So not just your past or previous relationships or that type of baggage, but your past in your own marriage. Maybe early on there were patterns that were set up because of how you guys were raised, because of the dynamics with your parents and the in-laws and all of this. And so it's like, oh, I can't stand her family, or oh, his mom is so critical of me. And right. And we start to pull that into our relationship. And then we start to say, well, if you were more like my wife, if you were more like my mother,
Right.
sorry, if only you could cook like her, or if only you were more patient like her. And it's like we start pulling all this stuff up. And again, it's like shoving that dirty laundry in somebody's face and making them smell it over and over again. This is not the way to take care of the laundry. This is not the way to do it. We see it over and over again. And then you get into these ruts and these deep patterns. And it's like suddenly when the mother-in-law comes up, now we're in a fight. Now we're in that agitated state, and we're ready to pounce. And we see it over and over again.
Yeah, it's so true. We do see it all the time. And it can look even, you're absolutely right. It can also additionally look like this, where you already know your spouse so well that the way they're reacting to the way that you've talked to each other, or it's almost like you know where they're going to go, their default pattern, and you're going to help them get there.
Real fast.
You don't ever even realize that, but you're like, oh, you're just going to go down that path. You're just going to say that over again. And what happens is even though it was recent history, even if it was early on in your marriage, you are essentially as a couple rehashing the past, constantly living in it actually, and making it the present. So you become an ongoing self-fulfilling prophecy, and it doesn't work good. It's not pretty, and you're not going to be able to get much resolution when you're stuck there. How can you move beyond it if you're just talking about and living out what has happened in the past?
Right. Well, and what you said just reminds me of this story of when we have a history of like, I can tend to get triggered if somebody criticizes my driving. And I remember we were on a trip and he was tired and I was like, let me drive, I'll drive, it's fine. And I was just like, I was bracing myself. I was like ready. I was like, I know he's going to criticize my driving. I know he's going to criticize my driving. And so the minute he's like, Rach, you might want to, and I was just like, ah! And it was like, I was anticipating it. And sure enough, my claws were out and they were ready, and I pounced. And instead of just receiving the feedback and going, you know what? I've been driving for 30 years, so I think I got this. You know what I mean? It was like, but it was just like, I knew he was going to do it. And when he did, boy, I was ready to get the gloves out. And guys, we're here to tell you, if you've been rehashing the past, if you've had a counselor or a therapist tell you, what you guys need to do is dredge up everything that's happened between the two of you, or everything that's happened in your remote past. And what we're not saying is just forget about all of it and just close your eyes and pretend and sweep under the rug. We're not saying that, but we're saying if you've had that advice where it's like, just lay it out there. Just let him have it. Just don't hold back. We've literally heard people say that in the context of trying to help somebody resolve conflict in the marriage. And it was like the accuser himself was in the room with his pointy little finger pointing down. Remember 20 years ago when you said this and when you did that and when you would constantly, and it was just like, you always and you never. And those two statements are so detrimental in a marriage. They cut like a dagger in somebody's back. And it's never helpful. And it's never a healing thing to dredge all that stuff up.
You're so right. Because one of the things about the past is we can never truly see the past clearly. We can try, which is good, but either we're going to have a crystallized perfectionist view of some things that happened, maybe even an early boyfriend or girlfriend or a previous job. Like we tend to remember some things with a rosy-eyed view, and nostalgic. And then there's also the times that we're bad and we just make it even worse. And sometimes we're obviously horrific, not saying that doesn't happen, but the reality is a lot of people are actually stuck living in the past. As you get older, we tend to think of the past even more than when we were young. Right. Well, obviously there's more to think about, but a lot of people, so whether you're going to a friend or you're thinking for yourself or you're thinking in the context of the marriage, you are locked in, unless you're being very careful, you are locked into living and rehashing the past, especially if there are problems in the marriage. And then things aren't working right. You go to a friend, you go to a family member, and they say the same thing. Like they're like, oh, well, you just, they're trying to connect with your pain. They're trying to connect with you, be like, oh, I'm so sorry for how that has been. And they almost solidify and strengthen the past. They strengthen the hurt and the pain, and you continue to live in it. So here's basically the heart of what we're saying. Whether you are on your own, don't talk to anybody else. and your marriage is struggling, you're probably locked into the past in some way. Or you're talking to a friend or family member. They're probably solidifying that. And then you might be going to your pastor or church or Sunday school teacher, or even going to a counselor. And they oftentimes are saying exactly the same thing. You need to rehash the past. Which, okay, so let's think about that for a minute. Like our default mode, what everybody's telling us, and what the professional help is telling us is all essentially the same thing. Rehash the past. Live in it. It does not work. It's never worked. It never will work. It absolutely cannot work. And it seems to me, guys, and just one other thought, most of us had 1 Corinthians in our wedding vows or in our wedding services.
Chapter 13, the love chapter.
Did I say that?
You said 1 Corinthians. Yeah.
Yeah, 13. So, and guys, if you had it read, it seems to me as it defines love, it tells us love keeps no record of wrongs. So do you see that we in our default nature, which by the way is sinful, what our friends and family are colluding with us to drag us down, they don't realize it, they're trying to help us. And then the professional help is all pointing us the exact opposite direction of what the Bible teaches us what love actually is. And we expect that this is going to work. We think that this is the right path. And they have that says counselor on their door. They must know what they're doing. Guys, it's not rocket science here. This is living in, believing, and carrying out the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's what love defined looks like. I hope that you're hearing this.
Yeah. One quick caveat.
Absolutely.
If you are in an abusive marriage, if there's
we're
physical,
not talking about that,
or or verbal abuse, we are not talking about, well, just keep forgiving and just keep giving chances. You have to create boundaries and safety. All right, we're not talking to you.
Correct.
For those of you who are in a marriage who has been rocky, has been challenging, there's been pain and sin on both sides, and you are continually looking back and back and back and expecting that the past is going to somehow help you get a better future. That we are talking to you, okay? And I'm here to tell you one big reason why it doesn't work is it keeps you in victimhood. When you can look back in the past and say, well, remember when he did that, and remember when she treated me that way, and she was so disrespectful, and she wasn't submissive, or he wasn't supportive, and he wasn't there for me, and and it's like, then we can just cower into this victim mentality, and it's like, I get to be the victim, you get to be the bad guy, and now it's all your fault. And it really can absolve you of taking action. And we're here to tell you, if you're doing that, you're going to stay a victim, and you're not going to be empowered to fix your marriage. Okay. So there's that.
It's not going to help. Yeah,
No.
Absolutely. And that's what all of this does. Living in the past without resolution, without moving ahead, without moving past it, without looking to the future. And really, that's a huge thing right there. That's one of the biggest problems in marriages today, is that they're not even looking at the future. They're just trying to get out of the present.
Right.
And when they're just trying to do that, they're usually looking at the past, and they're locked there. They don't know how to get out of it. And so the Bible isn't unclear on this. It's not like this is a difficult concept to understand. But where the rubber meets the road, that's where the difficulty is.
Right. Yeah. Because when you've been locked in these ruts, it's really hard to get out of them when you're in the midst of it. It's like the inside of the jar cannot read the outside of the label. You can't really see what you can't see. Your blind spots are your blind spots. That's what you can't see.
Right.
And it's kind of like if you're getting in a car, we use this illustration a lot. If you're getting in a car and you want to go somewhere, do you stare at the rearview mirror as the only way to know like where you're going? Or do we look through the big windshield that's in front of us? Like, where do you want to go? This is one of the things that's so powerful and amazing and effective about transformational coaching, because it helps you to look through the rear, through the windshield, not the rearview mirror. We glance at the rearview mirror. We look back, we learn, we grow, but we focus on where do you want to go? You know what I mean? Let's forget what lies behind, as the scripture tells, and let's press on toward what is ahead. And if you're having trouble doing that and you're so locked in the ruts and it's like, how do I get out of that? That's when you can reach out for help.
Absolutely. And let's just be very frank about it. Like if you're going, say things are struggling, you go to a girlfriend and you talk to her about things, and they're trying to relate to your pain. They're trying to relate to the struggle. And they're trying to be a good listener. And they're like, oh, I hear what you're saying. Like they're trying to be a good friend. And any good friend wants to relate to someone who's hurting. But the reality is usually when they're doing that, it almost solidifies in your mind that you're right, they're wrong. And they don't really care. That's usually what happens. It's not very helpful oftentimes going to friends, unless they're the kind of friend that's going to just lay the truth on you
Speak the truth
and
love,
say, brother, sister, you're just wrong. You
Yeah.
know, that's a different kind of scenario. And that's harder to do. And it's even harder to do if it's like your parents or a sibling. They're not going to level with you the way that
Right.
a friend would be. You oftentimes. So you go to a counselor even, and it can feel so cathartic. Or to lay your burdens on them, to lay everything that's happened on your friend or that counselor. Even with your spouse present, it can feel like, oh, it felt so good to get it off my chest. There is cathartic feeling that can happen there.
Yeah.
But getting it all out, that can be really, really messy and really not pretty and really not forgiving. And can just be like a big vomit in front of both of you. And that doesn't ever work.
Mm-hmm.
You, like you're saying, Rach, it's got to be vision focused to the future for things to be better, you know? And so looking back, we have to look in your rearview mirror of a car,
Right.
but you shouldn't be staring there.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, it feels cathartic. And that's why counselors get paid big bucks. People will go for 10, 15 years because they want someone to talk to. They want someone to listen to them. They want to get their problems out. And and we're not saying it's all bad and it never works.
Right.
We're saying that there's a place for that. But if you've been doing the same thing over and over again and you're still stuck, might be time for a shift in gears and a plan B, because if it's not working, it's not working.
Or a
right?
plan A, something that actually works.
Yeah, exactly.
And
because feeling good and venting, it can feel good in the moment, but is it getting you where you want to go? That's what coaching does. It puts you in the driver's seat, and you get to shift gears and go, let's go, rather than let's just stall out and be in neutral and like just sit here and rehash. So guys, if that's you, and if you're like, yes, okay, how do I get underneath this, and what do I do instead of rehashing the past? We want you to encourage you to reach out and book a call. That's what we do, these free breakthrough calls where we can really help you get to the bottom of what's not been working. Has it been rehashing the past or something else? What's not been working? But then it's like, where do you want to go? What do you hope and dream your marriage can be? I know all of us, when we said I do, we did not just hope to like pay the bills and just get by and just like die, like this is not what God has for you. He has a good plan for you. And it's like, what if the actual pain that you're in is actually part of his journey for you, so that you can then speak the truth and love to somebody down the road? What if this is part of the journey? But what if you don't have to stay here in the pain? So if that's you, we want to encourage you to go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call and book that free call, and you'll speak with one of us, and it could be some of the best 45 minutes you spend on your marriage.
Absolutely. And yeah, turnaroundmarriage.com/call. Pick that best time, fill out the questionnaire so we can serve you best. Yeah. I just want to, again, just kind of reassert what we've been saying today is rehashing the past in your mind and in your heart is never going to bring reconciliation or healing. Rehashing it, even with your spouse, just over and over again, and you always do this, and how come you don't listen, and you don't understand my past, you don't understand what happened, and you just never, all these you nevers, like, it's going to keep you locked. It's going to keep you in the same place. And there is not healing that comes from that. You can't ever move ahead, and you're going to stay a victim. And you may not blame you may not point yourself, but you're going to point at your spouse and say they're the one to blame for all that's happened. And it's like a victimhood that blames the other person. And guys, if you're going to professional help, or even to your pastor or to a friend, and they're saying, you need to just rehash it or lay it all out on the table so that you can really get healing for it, there's a place for that, in the sense that we have to be looking forward with forgiveness. Absolutely. But if we're just laying it out there so they can really make the other person feel it, there is never, ever, 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 ever going to be reconciliation, healing, or even an opportunity for your marriage to thrive. It will always keep it down. And understand this is the default mode. unless we're doing something about it. This is what our friends and family are going to solidify. And this is what the professionals are saying that you need to actually do. Well, maybe we should go back to where we began on that wedding day and remember that love keeps no record of wrongs.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
That's what love is. And if we can learn it to operate in that kind of love, looking to the future, realizing, my goodness, we have hurt each other in different ways. Now that we're looking to the future, I can see that with a clear view that I could not see in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beauty of transformational coaching. You're right. Looking to the future with a goal, with dreams, you can now even see in yourself how you harmed the other person far better than you telling me.
So true.
So true. Hope you guys have a great day. And what else are we going to say? Oh, last thing. Make sure you are in our group. Just search Turnaround Marriage on Facebook for our gratitude challenge this month.
Oh, yeah.
We are doing $100 giveaway for a date night. And so every day on the day that's posted, we're posting a little picture video, and you just comment what you're most grateful for about your spouse. Again, this isn't for I'm happy for my puppy and I'm happy for the sun being out. This is to be focused specifically on your spouse and your family and what you're grateful for. And there is great power in gratitude.
Yeah.
So guys, we wish you well. Hope you have an awesome day, and God bless you.
Talk to you soon.